Hey everyone, and welcome back to another news alert. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and thank you so much for tuning in to Boyd News. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more updates like this, and feel free to support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee. Links are in the description below the video. Let's get into the news, guys. Lots to cover with this war update. We'll start off with huge news out of Ukraine as the head of Ukraine's security service, also known as the SBU, held a meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and provided updates regarding destruction of Russian military equipment and critical infrastructure. He also made a wild claim that in the recent years, Ukraine carried out a precision strike destroying an Oreshnik medium range ballistic missile system inside Russian territory. So we'll start off with this news story here on your screen. And it says Ukraine's SBU head says they destroyed an Oreshnik missile system. Ukraine's security service and military intelligence destroyed one of Russia's top secret Oreshnik strategic missile systems during a covert operation at the Kapustin Yar testing range. So, very big story today. So, apparently, this strike was carried out sometime in the last 2 years. We don't know exactly when it happened. The official statement that came from Vasyl Malyuk, this gentleman you see here on your screen, which is the head of Ukraine's security service or SBU, he stated that it happened the summer before last. So, it could have been 2024 summer or 2023. We don't really know. But most likely, this strike was carried out before the Oreshnik medium range ballistic missile system for Russia was even announced, because it was just last year, I believe in November of 2024, that Russia had fired one of these into Ukraine in the city of Dnipro and had announced that they even had these. So that's why it mentions here in the details this was a top secret Oreshnik strategic missile system, because at the time when they originally struck this thing, it was not even announced yet. So, very interesting story. We'll talk more about that, and I'll give you guys more details in just a moment. Also, other top headline news: Ukraine carried out a large drone attack onto Russia overnight. A thermal power plant, electrical substation, and an oil refinery were all hit by Ukrainian drones. Very big news there. I've got lots of videos and pictures to share with you guys. We also have more reports to share regarding Russia's failing economy, as new reports indicate the economic situation in Russia continues to decline. Yeah, we'll talk about that with a few expos today towards the end of this video in regards to Russia's economy. It is not looking good for them and continuing to get worse. So let's talk about the news. Let's jump into this. We're going to hop on over to X with Nexta. And the report says Ukrainian forces secretly destroyed Russian Oreshnik last summer. The operation was kept secret, and only presidents of several countries were aware of the successful sabotage, SBU head Vasyl Malyuk said. According to him, the destruction was 100%. One of the missile complexes blew up at the Kapustin Yar range in Russia's Astrakhan regions. We've talked about the Kapustin Yar range. Sometimes the Russians close down the airspace over there for testing missiles. This is going to be down in southwestern Russia, I'd say at least 800 kilometers away from the border of Ukraine. And it also says here the Oreshnik medium range ballistic missile belongs to the ground to ground class, and according to available data, can be equipped with either a nuclear or conventional warhead. According to Russian classification, its range likely reaches up to 5,500 kilometers. So, what a crazy story. I was not expecting to hear about this today. So, Ukraine's SBU head, Vasyl Malyuk, that's what he announced to Volodymyr Zelensky, that apparently they had destroyed this several years ago, either 2024 or 2023. I can't completely confirm because all he really said was the summer before the last. So that could have been either 2024 again or 2023 summer when this happened. But from what we understand, this strike or sabotage was carried out prior to this system even being announced. So very big news today. Let me know how you feel on this story. Here's more information. United 24 Media. Zelensky says 25 Russian companies produced the Oreshnik missile and not a single one is under sanctions. How is that possible? So yeah, that's what Zelensky stated apparently also during this meeting with Vasyl Malyuk, that apparently 25 different companies are helping produce this Oreshnik medium-range ballistic missile and not a single one is under sanctions. You would think that just about every company inside of Russia that is connected to the military should be under sanctions. So it looks like maybe that'll be coming next. Maybe he'll bring that up to European leaders and maybe to the United States and say, hey, we need to start sanctioning these companies that are producing this missile that clearly is not just a threat to Ukraine, but also to Europe and beyond, right? Because it's got a 5,500 kilometer range, according to the Russians. Now, Polymarket Intel. Zelensky said Russia can use up to 6 Oreshnik missiles and plans to position them in Belarus. They want to deploy Oreshnik in Belarus. They have an approximate radius of action of 5,000 kilometers. There is a dead zone of 700 kilometers. That is, the Europeans need to pay attention to this, he stated. So that's pretty crazy. We don't know a whole lot of details on this. And according to Volodymyr Zelensky, he's saying that if this thing is fired, it's got a radius of around 5,000 kilometers of range. And then on top of that, when it strikes its target, can create a dead zone of 700 kilometers, if I'm understanding that correctly. Let me know what you guys think on these details. That sounds pretty devastating to me. 700 kilometers is a pretty large radius of a dead zone that would be created by this missile. So absolutely insane news. Now, Clash reports Ukraine Security Service SBU Chief Malyuk. Since the start of the year, there have been almost 160 successful hits on Russian oil production and refining facilities. In September and October, 20 facilities, 6 refineries, 2 terminals, 3 depots, 9 pumping stations. This led to over 20% deficits in petroleum products, 37% downtime of refining, deficits in 57 Russian regions, and a gasoline export ban until the year end. Wow, so that sounds like massive damage to Russia's oil and gas industry. I mean, how many times have we reported oil refineries getting hit, oil depots, pumping stations? I mean, you name it. Ukraine has struck just about everything inside of Russia, and they're planning to go even deeper. We've been talking about these long-range strikes that Ukraine wants to carry out. I've got another update on that here in just a moment. So yeah, it looks like huge damage to Russia's oil and gas industry according to this information. Let me know what you think on those details if you think that's correct. Now, Bliskovka, since the beginning of the year, the defense forces have destroyed 48% of Russian Panzer air defense systems, SSU head Malyuk says. Malyuk noted that these systems work best against our long-range UAVs, so their destruction is very important. He added that Russians produce 30 Panzers per year, but the number of those destroyed far exceeds that produced. So if anything, Russia is running out of these Panzer systems if Ukraine is destroying more than what Russia can produce, right? So he claims that 48% of these Russian Panzer air defense systems have been destroyed. I mean, what is it? Several of these probably per week that report being destroyed. I mean, I'd say on average anywhere between 1 and 5 air defense systems are reported to be destroyed, not just Panzer, but other types as well. And according to Vasyl Malyuk, these are very important for the Russians to down Ukrainian UAVs. So imagine if a lot of these are destroyed, that also explains why a lot of Ukrainian drones are able to make it deep behind Russian lines and strike oil refineries and critical infrastructure. That's why, because the Russians don't have enough air defense systems, and clearly they're running out of the Panzers the more that this war continues. Now, military news UA, Ukraine has already used the Flamingo cruise missile 9 times in real operations. It is currently the best Ukrainian cruise missile, writes Le Figaro, with reference to Zelensky. The publication notes that the production of ballistic missiles is currently being considered. Yeah, we know about Ukraine's Sapsan ballistic missile. Here's a picture of the Flamingo cruise missile that Ukraine is trying to up the production on right now. I forgot how many they're producing. It's not very many, just a few of these per day, but I think they're trying to get it up to like 7 or 9 of these per day or per month or something like that. They want to start firing more of these into Russia. So apparently, also according to Le Figaro, mainstream news outlets, they're reporting that Ukraine has already used the Flamingo cruise missile 9 times in real operations. So that's crazy. They literally just unveiled this thing in the last, month or two, and they've already carried out at least 9 operations striking targets with this missile. So very big news. Now, military news UA, there will be new long-range strikes on the Russian Federation in the near future. Targets will be determined, together with the heads of the Security Service of Ukraine and the Foreign Intelligence Service, according to Zelensky. So here was the meeting between Vasyl Malyuk, Volodymyr Zelensky. We even have Andrei Sybiha right here as well, the foreign minister. So it was the heads of the Security Service of Ukraine and the Foreign Intelligence Service. They mapped out some targets they want to go after deep into Russia with long-range strikes. And we keep hearing that so they're going to utilize drones and possibly even missiles to strike critical targets that have not been hit yet deeper into Russia. So get ready for that. As I mentioned months ago, Ukraine's going to start carrying out massive attacks onto Russia, possibly even Moscow as well. Now, Polymarket Intel. Zelensky dismissed claims that Pokrovsk is surrounded, admitting that fighting there is very difficult. He said Russia is intensifying efforts to seize the city after setbacks in Kupiansk, Dobropilya, and Zaporizhia. Responding to reports of a possible Putin visit, Zelensky remarked, he's welcome. Everyone knows how it will end. Okay, so that was Zelensky responding to Vladimir Putin. Apparently, Putin is thinking about visiting the city of Pokrovsk, or at least the outskirts of it, to see how the frontline operations are down there. So we've talked about this city many times, a major transport and rail hub city for the Ukrainians in the southeastern side of Ukraine in the Donetsk region. And we've been hearing that the Russians are fighting hard over there. Ukraine is really struggling to hold on to that city. At any moment, it could possibly fall. We've heard lots of reports that the Russians are infiltrating. Ukraine has sent special units down there to try to weed out the Russians and get them out of Pokrovsk. But it's looking more and more likely that it could fall in the coming days or weeks. We'll have to see what's going to happen. Hopefully, Ukraine can hold out. But yeah, Zelensky was commenting on Putin's possible visit, and he said he's welcome. Everyone knows how it will end. So I'm curious to know what he means by that. I was trying to figure out, is that some sort of threat or what's going on here? I don't really know, but you guys can let me know what that possible message is there where he says he's welcome. Everyone knows how it will end. Let me know what you think on that down in the comments. Now moving on to drone bomber, we'll talk about these strikes inside of Russia. Approximate flight routes of our UAVs. Red arrow indicates directions of strike UAVs. Blue arrow indicates directions of jet-powered UAVs. All information about the routes is taken from Russia's sources. So pretty massive attack onto Russia overnight. Here's the latest news that we've got for you. So in the Ural region right here, where you can see a lot of these UAVs were crossing through, even jet UAVs, which is going to be these blue arrows. That's where we had a thermal power plant coming under a pretty large attack there, got hit multiple times based on some videos that I saw. Also up here in the Vladimir region, we have an electrical substation, 750 kilovolt, that was struck, possibly destroyed, and this supplies a lot of power to the central regions up here in Russia. So that was a huge hit. We've been seeing Ukraine doing that a lot lately. And then also a few videos that indicate a possible strike at the Yaroslavl oil refinery as well. That's going to be up here in this region, in the Yaroslavl region, just north of Moscow. Reports of an oil refinery getting hit over there. I don't have any videos, unfortunately, of direct impacts or major fires showing at the oil refinery, but we do have videos of people recording nearby major explosions, and we do have NASA firms fire maps indicating a fire did break out on the facility, so it was hit up there as well. Aside from that, not too many reports, but you can see drones just kind of going everywhere inside of Russia, especially the western side of Russia up here overnight. Now, Vicegrad 24, Ukraine struck Orlovskaya thermal power plant in Oriel early this morning. The gas-fired power facility has an installed capacity of 330 megawatts and primarily uses natural gas and fuel, with fuel oil as a backup. The plant supplies approximately 40% of the electricity needs for Oriel Oblast and 65% of the thermal energy district heating for the city of Oriel. Ukrainian drones struck both its high-voltage electrical distribution and control system within the plant's substation infrastructure and its fuel oil storage facility, setting them on fire. So it sounds like two major components here at this thermal power plant getting struck. Here's a video of one impact, about 9 seconds. Take a look. All right, so it looks like a massive hit right there. You can hear that huge explosion. Somebody was able to record this, and it almost looks like there's smoke coming from over here as well. I'm not sure if it's coming from those cooling towers, but I do have information that some of these cooling towers were attacked as well. So pretty crazy video right there. We'll move on to another one now. Max 25, the Oriel CHP plant, that's combined heating and power plant in the city of Oriel, was just hit by drones. Okay, so we got a 30-second clip here as well. And there's going to be a young girl here talking and calling on her mother. And I believe what she's saying is the thermal power plant is coming under attack and being blown up. Take a look at this.
Мама! ТЭС взорвали. Вон у меня видно, я засняла. Мама, я боюсь. Там ТЭС взорвали. Мама,
Блядь, иди сюда.
All right, so as we can see in this video, looks like at least two direct impacts from Ukrainian drones. Some people were saying as well that missiles or maybe rocket drones were being used, because sometimes I saw some up close video as well that you weren't able to see any drones or hear anything. So could be possible that missiles were striking this plant here also, but definitely drones were pounding it, as we can see. Now war translated. One of three cooling towers at a thermal power plant in Orel, Russia was damaged following an overnight attack. Here's some pictures coming out showing some of these panels here. I believe these are made out of concrete. I'm not 100% sure here, but you can see some of them are missing. So definitely one of these cooling towers came under attack as well. There's another video or picture, excuse me, and then one more here. Looks like it may have been struck in this whole area and knocked a lot of these panels off. And I think these are like some sort of steel bars as well that hold up the structure. And I've read a little bit online as well that sometimes they use some concrete as well. So I'm not sure 100% of what if these are panels or whatnot, but definitely got some damage here on one of these cooling towers. Now Max 25 at night, AFU hit the 750 kilovolt Vladimirskaya substation. The impact clearly hit the transformers. The substation was modernized in 2022, according to Cyber Barashno. So Cyber Barashno is going to be an open source intelligence group on X, and they were actually able to geolocate that it was this particular electrical substation in the Vladimir region that came under attack. So again, a 750 kilovolt substation, a very massive one that was struck by Ukrainian drones. Here's an older photo in the past of this facility, and they're able to indicate that it was actually this facility that was hit. We can see a huge fire here that broke out in the center. I've got more videos here now. Status 6, the Vladimirskaya 750 kilovolt electrical substation located in Vladimir Oblast, Western Russia, on fire following Ukrainian strikes last night. This is one of the largest and most powerful electrical infrastructure facilities in the region. So yeah, again, we're hearing that this is a major electrical substation. And again, we've been seeing Ukraine doing a lot of this, striking so many different electrical substations, because this is what we see happening inside of Ukraine. Russia is really destroying a lot of Ukraine's electrical substations, also their thermal power plants. We just reported one yesterday being struck in Lviv on the western side of the country. So Ukraine is getting payback and retaliating and doing the same thing back to Russia with drones. Now, Igor Sushko, Russia, Slavneft, Yanos oil refinery in Yaroslavl struck by Ukrainian drones, fifth largest refinery in the country with annual capacity of 15 million tons, 300,000 barrels per day, 4.6% of national output, 500 miles or 800 kilometers from Ukraine, northeast of Moscow. So these were NASA firms maps that were indicating, looks like on the southwestern side of the facility, it did come under attack and some sort of fire broke out over there. There was confirmation of strikes over here, so most likely was Ukrainian drones that caused this fire. Still waiting for more details on the damages over here, but for sure, according to NASA firms, there was a fire that broke out there. Here's a couple videos now. Max 25, Yaroslavl, the oil refinery, Yaroslav Neft Orgzentez, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. That's apparently the official name of it. So we got this first video. No sound in this video, but you're going to see huge explosion right there. Looks like somebody's front door video camera was able to capture this. And then we also have another video coming up here. This one will have some sound. Go ahead and take a look at this real quick.
Блять, ёбаный рот, просто пизда нахуй, пиздец. Ёпту.
All right, we'll go ahead and pause it right there. So as you can see, some woman was recording outside of her window. She heard explosions, and allegedly this could be in the Yaroslavl region, potentially at that oil refinery, and that could be what we're seeing here, was the explosions at the refinery coming under attack by Ukrainian drones. So still waiting for more details on that strike. Now, Visioner, on the night of October 28th, Ukrainian special forces, together with Russian partisans in the Rostov region, destroyed an occupier's Buk M3 type anti-aircraft system and damaged a Nebo U type radar station. Excuse me. So apparently we had a Buk M3, which is going to be this air defense system right here, and then also another Nebo U-type radar station that has been struck and destroyed over the last couple days. So October 28th, I believe that should have been on Tuesday or the night of Tuesday. So it says Ukrainian special forces and Russian partisans in the Rostov region, just over the border from Ukraine's Luhansk and Donetsk regions in eastern Ukraine, is where these strikes were carried out and allegedly destroyed two major systems here. Okay, so an air defense system and a radar that's used to detect any incoming drones or projectiles that help these air defense systems shoot them down. So, very big news there. Huge losses to the Russian side as we have confirmation of that. Now, Bliskovka, Russia has attacked railway facilities in Sumy and Kharkiv region, according to Ursulanitsia, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it says in Sumy, a depot, a Sumy Kiev train, a train station, a gas station, an oxygen station, diesel locomotive, a dormitory, and three high rise buildings were damaged. 15 people were injured, including four children. In Lazova, Kharkiv region, a section of the railway infrastructure was damaged and trains are running with delays. Okay, so major strikes on railways again, this time in the Sumy and Kharkiv region. Sumy is a major area we talk about getting attacked with railways, sometimes Kharkiv as well. These are all up in the northern side of Ukraine. Reports of damages over here. We can see a train track that has been destroyed, a railway station here completely wiped out as well. And check out some of these rail cars here that caught fire and were burned down, destroyed. And one more picture there of this railway station. So the Russians have been doing a lot of this. Ukraine utilized these train systems to move a lot of things around their country and equipment. And the Russians have been bombing a lot of these lately. So they've been bombing railways, they've been bombing thermal power plants, electrical substations, gas and storage facilities. They've been destroying a lot of critical infrastructure inside of Ukraine. That's why I think the Ukrainians are going to start carrying out long-range strikes into Russia to put more pressure onto Vladimir Putin to end this war. Now, next to IAEA reports, Russia's strikes pose a real nuclear safety risk for Europe. The IAEA says Russian attacks on Ukraine have damaged critical substations that ensure the safe operation of nuclear power plants. Agency teams at the South Ukraine and Khmelnytsky nuclear power plants reported the loss of one external power line at each facility. At the Rivne nuclear power plant, 2 of 4 power units had to reduce output at the request of grid operators. IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi warns the threat to nuclear safety is real and constant. Russia continues to play with fire and with infrastructure that underpins not only Ukraine's security, but Europe's as well. So not good to hear about this. So the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, they're warning that Russian attacks on Ukraine have damaged critical substations that ensure safe operation of nuclear power plants. So imagine if power were to be knocked out at some very serious nuclear power plants inside of Ukraine. Okay, they'd have to run on diesel generators. We've talked about the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. It was at risk of a complete meltdown down there due to the power being cut. That's what happened over there in the recent weeks. We had diesel generators that were powering that facility down on the southern side of Ukraine for several weeks. So dangerous situation. Anything can happen over here. Hopefully we never have a major nuclear incident. But obviously this war and all these strikes on energy is really causing some havoc inside of Ukraine and major problems. The IAEA is warning that we could see a major nuclear incident with these strikes on energy substations. Now, Jay in Kiev, another bloodbath earnings report from the largest employer in Russia. Russian Railways isn't just railways, rather dozens of companies in every field from telecom, security, manufacturing, and everything. Look at this report out of Russia. Russian Railways net loss under Russian accounting standards for the first 9 months amounted to 4.2 billion rubles. Moscow, October 30th, from Interfax, Russian news agency. Russian Railways net loss under Russian accounting standards RAS for January through September 2025 amounted to 4.207 billion rubles compared to a net profit of 44.7 billion rubles for the same period last year, the company said in a report. So look at that. So last year they had a net profit of 44 billion. This year they've got a net loss. Okay, that means negative in losses, 4.2 billion rubles. This is a major company and the largest employer inside of Russia called Russian Railways. And according to this information, they also manage multiple other companies in different agencies and different aspects of Russia's society. So that is crazy news to hear about here. This is more show that Russia's economy is completely collapsing under huge pressure from all these sanctions and this war obviously being so expensive too. So at what point is Russia going to end this war in Ukraine? It looks like they may be forced to in the near term if this continues. So more big news that Russia's economy is in shambles. Now, Max 25, Russian oil exports fall to lowest since 2022, according to Bloomberg. Total seaborne traffic averaged 1.89 million barrels per day for the first 26 days of October, the lowest since at least the beginning of 2022. Even the growth in diesel exports does not save the statistics. Here's a report. Russian fuel exports plunge amid refinery outages, new sanctions. Okay, so we just heard, I think it was yesterday, I showed you guys a report that the oil exports out of Russia were semi normal, that they weren't really changing much. Now, according to Bloomberg, that's not the case, that their exports are plunging down to 1.89 million barrels per day. They are dropping, and that's the lowest level since the beginning of 2022. Okay, so that's big news as well. We know Ukraine's destroying a lot of oil refineries and knocking out a lot of oil and gas facilities just in general inside Russia. So that's going to affect their fuel exports. On top of that, the U.S. just came out with huge sanctions along with the EU onto Russia, targeting their oil and gas sector, especially these two major companies, Rosneft and Lukoil, which is making it difficult for them to continue their exports with oil. So according to Bloomberg, it's not looking good for them there. Now, Maria Drutska, Russian economic collapse alarm bells are ringing in the Duma. In the video below, central bank governor Nabiullina warns the Russian economy is so fragile that if the interest rate is dropped to 3 to 4% right now, it will cause 1990s hyperinflation and economic collapse. Yeah, about a 1 minute clip here. I want you guys to see this real quick. There is going to be some subtitles here on the bottom of the screen. Her warning that apparently somebody came up with the idea to drop interest rates from, I think they're around 18 or 19% right now, down to about 3 to 4% to stimulate the economy. She warns they can't do that or they will see hyperinflation in their country. Take a look.
Кстати, вот Александр Дмитриевич Жуков поднимал вопрос о том, что не хватает еще одного варианта. Если сейчас в условиях относительно высокой ставки инфляции снизить ставку до 3-4%, потому что некоторые считают, что это сильно поможет экономическому росту. Мы такой анализ обязательно подготовим, мы об этом договорились, но только для того, я в этом уверена, чтобы показать, как выглядит путь в гиперинфляцию. Хотя большинству сидящих в зале эта ситуация знакома не понаслышке. В 90-е годы мы хлебнули ее по полной программе, и вы прекрасно помните, что было и с экономическим ростом, с инвестициями в 90-е годы, и было ли тогда рублевое долгосрочное кредитование. То, что тогда это была тотальная долларизация экономики, финансовой системы, вы помните условные единицы в магазинах и так далее. И та денежно-кредитная политика, которую мы проводим, период перегрева спроса, когда у нас есть дисбаланс спроса и предложений, она как раз направлена на то, чтобы снова там не оказаться.
Okay, so what this sounds like to me is Russia's economy is so weak right now and inflation is so high that if they were to drop interest rates, that this would create more inflation on top of the high inflation they're already experiencing, and they would see runaway inflation leading to hyperinflation. So what a crazy story there. Let me know how you feel on that. This really shows again how bad things are for the Russian economy. Now, Kiev Post, Spain to host secret meeting of Coalition of the Willing on Ukraine, according to El Mundo. Delegates from 35 countries will attend under tight secrecy. Phones will be collected at the entrance and stored separately, with participants warned not to disclose any details of the meeting. So I thought this was interesting. Spain going to be hosting a secret meeting of the Coalition of the Willing. So this is a group of countries in Europe that's prepared to deploy troops into Ukraine. So is something coming? Are we going to see a ceasefire soon? And is the Coalition of the Willing getting ready to deploy their troops over there? Anything could really happen in this war. But again, with these long-range strikes that Zelensky is planning onto Russia, anything could happen, and we could see a forced end to this war here very soon. And then look at Russia's economy at the same time. Things are not looking good. Something's going to happen here very soon is what it looks like to me if they're having this secret meeting, because they're also claiming that nobody will be disclosing any details. So if we do get details on this, I will let you guys know, but apparently that's coming soon. Now, War Translated. The Trump-Putin meeting in Budapest was canceled after Russia sent a memorandum demanding territorial concessions from Ukraine. major force reductions, and NATO membership ban, Financial Times reports citing sources. Following a call between U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, Rubio informed Trump that Moscow showed no readiness to negotiate. So, more details on why Trump canceled his meeting with Putin. Basically, what I'm saying here is that the Russians have not changed their stance. They're still demanding Ukraine's capitulation, give up the Donbass, reduce the size of your army, no NATO membership. We know about all these already that Ukraine will never agree to. That means there's not going to be any settlement. That's why Trump went ahead and canceled his meeting with Putin, because he knows there's going to be no deal on Ukraine if the Russians are not willing to bend on their demands. So, more updates there. Now, next, India appears to be buying Russian oil again. According to Reuters, India's largest refiner, Indian Oil Corp, has purchased 5 cargoes from suppliers that are formally not under sanctions. The shipments are expected to arrive in December. The company carefully notes that purchases will continue as long as volumes stay within sanctions limits. In other words, the scheme is simple: buy, but quietly and without drawing too much attention. Interesting. Here's a report. Reuters: Indian oil buys Russian crude from non-sanctioned entities, sources say. So my question is, why is there entities in Russia that are not sanctioned? Yeah, that's something for the EU and the US to look into. So it looks like India is turning right back around and purchasing Russian oil again. They found a loophole from some companies inside of Russia that are not sanctioned to purchase from. Yet at the same time, Russia is being heavily sanctioned right now, and they're not supposed to be selling oil to countries like India. We know India is under pretty substantial tariffs as well from the Trump administration for purchasing Russian oil to begin with. So this completely goes against everything that Trump has been saying lately, that the Indians are not going to be buying Russian oil, or at least they'll be decreasing it quite a bit. Now we got reports they are turning back around and purchasing more again. Now, Clash report. Russia's armed forces have reportedly begun using 9M729 cruise missiles against targets in Ukraine, according to Reuters, citing Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha. One missile launched on August 5th allegedly flew 1,200 kilometers before striking a target. Ukrainian officials claim 23 such missiles have been used since August 2025, though no debris or proof has been shown. The 9M729 Novator is a land-based version of the Caliber missile with an estimated 2,000 kilometer range and a 500 kilogram warhead. The system that led to the U.S. to leave the INF treaty in 2019. Ukrainian intelligence earlier said Russia ordered 95 of these missiles for use with the Iskander M1 launcher. Here's the reports. Exclusive. Russia uses missile in Ukraine that led Trump to quit a nuclear treaty, Kiev says. So yeah, if you guys know that, Trump left this nuclear treaty with Russia back in 2019, and apparently it was due to this missile that the Russians were producing. Now, apparently Ukraine's claiming that 23 of these have been fired into Ukraine since August of 2025. So that's literally just in the past couple months, right? Yeah, this thing is nuclear capable. So it looks like maybe that's also why we're seeing a lot of this rhetoric coming out from Trump, where Trump's saying that he's ordering the Department of War to start testing nuclear weapons. I mean, clearly there's lots of escalations when it comes to nuclear weapons between Russia and the United States. And it's not looking good here, especially when we're hearing reports like this of this missile being fired into Ukraine. These are nuclear capable missiles that have slammed into Ukraine at 23 times at least in the last couple of months. So let me know what you think on that. Now, Knoll reports Russia is ready for direct talks with Ukraine, according to Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Galuzin. Okay, so Mikhail Galuzin, the Deputy Foreign Minister, claiming that apparently Russia is open to talks. Now, we haven't heard anything else out of the Kremlin. You know, the Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, Vladimir Putin himself, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Nobody else has said anything, but according to him, they're open to talk on ending this war with Ukraine. So we'll see. Maybe we'll get more details on that soon. Now, end strike. According to Wall Street Journal, China has sent Russia over 3 million drone engines. In 2024, Russia purchased more than 3.3 million engines from the Chinese company Shenzhen Kiosk Electronic. Their final recipient was the Moscow-based company Rostact LLC, which specializes in FPV drone production. The volume and structure of imports indicate that Rostact serves not only as a manufacturer, but also as a logistics hub for other Russian drone producers. Furthermore, China has become the primary foreign supplier of critical components, including engines and navigation systems used in the production of Shahed-type drones. Some more indication that the Chinese are not a neutral party to this conflict. According to the Wall Street Journal, they're claiming that China has sent Russia over 3 million drone engines that are used in drones that attack Ukraine, like the Shahed drones, for example, right? So, or Gerbera drones, whatever it might be. Not good news to hear about this because we know that Trump is supposedly going to be working with Xi Jinping. We'll see if they actually do that to end this war between Russia and Ukraine. So far, not too many details yet. It was just announced yesterday, so we'll see what happens in the future if China actually helps. But I mean, clearly they're supplying the Russians with military equipment. Why would they help Trump end this war? You guys can let me know how you feel on this story, but share your thoughts and concerns in the comments on that. Now, Bliskovka, Air Defense Forces of Ukraine shot down or suppressed 108 out of 146 Russian air targets. 107 out of 145 attack UAVs such as Shahed, Gerbera, other types of drones, 1 out of 1 Iskander-M ballistic missile, and 36 attack UAVs were recorded in 20 locations. The attack continues with several enemy UAVs in the airspace. So 146 munitions going into Ukraine, 1 ballistic missile Iskander-M being fired, and it looks like 107 out of those 145 attack UAVs were taken out, or actually 108, out of the 146 air targets destroyed completely, and that includes that ballistic missile. So pretty good numbers out of Ukraine's defenses overnight. Now, Kyiv Independent, these are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of October 31st, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Now, our final update, Russia's losses as of October 31st, 970 troops, 5 AFVs, 118 vehicles and fuel tanks, 5 tanks, 39 artillery systems, 648 UAVs, 2 MLRS, 37 cruise missiles, 1 anti-aircraft warfare system. Okay, so allegedly we have another anti-aircraft warfare system being destroyed overnight. Not sure which one that was. We did hear about that Buk M3 and that Nebo radar being destroyed in the last few days. 2 multiple launch rocket systems here being destroyed. Very good news there. 39 artillery systems, about average numbers, tanks and AFVs. Going up a little bit. Yesterday was less than 5 for both of these. Tanks, vehicles and fuel tanks, about average numbers, I'd say there, same with troop numbers. So not too much movement here with a lot of losses on the Russia side, but overall about average from what we typically see. So guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in for today's update on October 31st, 2025. And I hope you guys all have a great day out there. Happy Halloween and enjoy your day. Be safe and take care. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let me know what you think about all these details down below in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.